Hello and welcome to another episode of the NK Active podcast. I am Nick, podiatrist and director here at NK Active, and we are kindly joined this month by Hayley, who's a second year podiatry student from the University of Southampton, who's on placement with us. So this really fits with our educational theme that we've got this month. So Hayley, first of all, welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you for agreeing. Did I think you agreed? I think we just maybe not twisted your arm.
I was coerced, but I'm happy to be here. Thank you.
So, sort of talk us through about how did you get up and end up studying podiatry? What's your journey?
I've gone in as a mature student. So having had my own children, I kind of come to a bit of a crossroads. I coming out of the baby years and just had an opportunity to kind of consider what I wanted to do. We've had lockdown. I undertook a diploma while homeschooling my own children. I knew it was going to be health-based. I knew it was going to be science-based. And yeah, once I'd done my diploma, I kind of explored what my options were. I stumbled across podiatry, hadn't even heard of podiatry, to be honest. Explored it a little bit further, and it ticked so many boxes that I just had to kind of go down that route. And I feel like I've struck gold.
Good. So it's interesting because when I applied to be a podiatrist 2-3 months prior to that, I never even heard of what a podiatrist was. It was just through random events that ended up me becoming a podiatrist, and I don't regret any minutes of it. So obviously you're on placements here. How are things going?
Oh, it's awesome. Yeah, this is my second placement in a block. I had a 6-week placement prior to Christmas, exams in the middle, and then I've joined NK Active after Christmas, and I've absolutely loved it so far. Got another 2 weeks to go. I'll be sad to leave.
We've been here 4 weeks already.
Yeah.
Wow, that's flown by, hasn't it?
Yes.
Yeah, it has been quite varied because we've had a CPD day. We've got another CPD event tomorrow.
Yep.
We've got some online events that you're going to be part of. We've had nail surgeries. We've had general podiatry stuff, case analysis, rehab things. So far, what's been the most exciting part of it for you?
The discussions, I think. Having been in the NHS with the factory of people coming through the door, having that space to explore people in general, what motivates people, getting people on board, just having those discussions where you're exploring a little bit deeper into what kind of makes people tick. I think that's been, it's just been a breath of fresh air, to be honest, I think.
But it's definitely that approach of, is that if you have a medical emergency, it's quite binary. It's 0 to 1. You either treat it or you don't. And actually, the person matters, but they don't matter much because you have a medical emergency that takes priority. But in sort of podiatry world, and then what we do here, especially with the rehab and the strengthening side of things, actually people I think often forget that as a human being attached to that problem.
Most definitely.
And I think the thing you really need to do is learn how to build a relationship with that human being. And so you're not just treating the painful foot, you're then also helping that person along their journey. And you talk about the discussions bit, and this is why you'll notice that all of our initial consultations is just building that rapport, having that chat to work out, okay, what do people want to do? Why are they here? What are the barriers? How are we going to get from A to B? And I think just trying to put that structured plan and approach into
I think
things.
historically as podiatrists, we're awesome at the biomechanical side of it.
Yep.
We know anatomy. We know the forces and loads and all of those things. And I think that is really important, but I think it sometimes can become detached from the person. And I think having that space to do so in this environment and so well.
Yeah.
I think great.
What have you seen on placement that you didn't really think you were expected to see here?
I came quite open-minded. I don't think I had any expectations of what you might do, and I don't think there is anything that's actually surprised me.
Good.
It's met all my expectations. I think I don't think I've been surprised.
Good. That's good stuff. No, it's only because we offer slightly different services in the way we help teach people to recover from their injuries and get them fitter and stronger, and having the own gym on site here is just slightly different the way other people can.
Yeah, I don't think there's another podiatry clinic that offers the same. I think they should. But it wasn't a surprise though. So.
No, it's and then there's also the other elements that you've been working on is also some sort of research projects and data collection stuff, and because I think that's really important as well. Yes, seeing the patients, understanding that, but then actually working out the process of, well, we say we do X, Y, and Z, but where's our evidence to show we do X, Y, and Z? And it's always one of those projects when we have a student on placement is that there's always some data for you to start sifting through and start looking at. And how have you found all of those side of things?
Well, I think it's great you thinking that you're great, but if you haven't got those figures to support that, then I think it's a bit shallow. And I think the research does back up what you're doing here, because you can't fudge it. It is what it says. It's numbers, it's experiences, it's feedback from patients. So trawling through those has been an eye opener, and you've got some good results.
Thank you.
And I think it's setting me up nicely for doing dissertation. That's coming next year, so it gives me an insight to my podiatry students that are a year ahead of me, and what they've experienced. Gives me a little bit of an insight to what I've got coming.
Any idea what you want to do your dissertation on? Topic area yet?
I've chosen, but we haven't had our first discussion about exactly what that entails. But it's looking into first line podiatry through what is currently offered from a GP point of view and what can be taken away from that to first line podiatry. So
no, I think
how that looks.
It's definitely an interesting topic that where the NHS is so stretched at the moment, and it's along the lines of that to try and offer good, effective healthcare. In my opinion, it's seeing the right person at the right time. And is there a way to actually say, well, if you got a foot problem, then go and see GP may not be the best because they're not the people who can help manage that. Actually, what's the pathway of getting you straight in front of a podiatrist as quickly as possible? And is the NHS always the best provider to give that level of care, and have they got the structure and the resources to do with that? And so it's definitely an interesting thing, because I think the healthcare demands of the nation have changed significantly over the last sort of 30, 40 years. But then also, and I think also things have changed again since coming out of the tail end of the strange few years we had during the pandemic. Is there anything else that you would have wanted to see or learn or pick up on placement that didn't quite happen yet?
I'm not sure that there is. I mean, I've learned a lot from just observing, hearing. I've got a lot of opportunity also to practice. So Charlie's been really great at kind of giving me scenarios, role plays. It's not my favourite place to be, but, like the role play scenario, but, it does give me an opportunity to practice my motivational interviewing techniques, history taking, all of those detective work that I can carry to anywhere that I end up working.
Yeah, it's funny you say detective. I had a patient who we managed virtually, who worked in the homicide department for LAPD, and I think they found me through a blog I wrote, and we done some virtual rehab and consultations and whatnot. And we actually had a long discussion on about how actually his job as a homicide detective is very similar to what myself as a podiatrist does, in that it's all the answers I need are sat in front of me. You just got to ask the right questions and do the right amount of listening. It goes back to that whole saying, you've got 2 ears and 1 mouth, so maybe use them in that order, because actually the person in front of you will give you all of the answers you need. You've got to find a way of sort of unlocking it and sort of piecing out the bits of information.
And it's surprising what comes out the woodwork later on, and you're like, I could have asked that question and got to their answer quicker. And they just put these gems in, and I'm like, all makes sense.
And it's those gems that they think is just a throwaway comment.
Yeah.
But actually, to them doesn't mean, but actually for us, is sort of the final piece in the puzzle to piece everything together. So I think it is really, really helpful to practice that motivational interviewing techniques and just learning how to communicate with people. You can have all the knowledge, but if you can't communicate with someone, you can't then get your point across and build that rapport.
It's very much human to human. It's not a counselling session or, coercing someone to give you what you want, but it is just being a human, discussing human needs and conditions and all that sort of stuff. So I don't think you don't have to overly complicate that. It's just hearing, like you say, you need to listen.
And then as a sort of a mature student, obviously things have changed in how education is delivered over the last sort of few years. How have you felt it's been? Because it's still this blended learning approach of mixture of face-to-face, virtual. How have you found?
I'm thankful that I haven't had to study through lockdown. I think particularly in podiatry, you need people to practice with, and I feel grateful that I hadn't done the course a year earlier, to be frank. But I think there have been elements that have come through that are actually useful. The online lectures can be of benefit, particularly when fuel prices are so high. I live at home, so I'm having to commute into university for lectures, and some of those there's no benefit to be physically in a lecture. You can still ask questions through Teams. So I think it's best of both. Whereas I think through lockdown we have actually inherited some good practices and some useful changes that can kind of bring us into the future a little bit more. We've got the technology, might as well use it.
100%. And we found that at Encactive you can have that blended learning approach where you're delivering information. You can do that virtually, but then a case of, think about how do you implement this into practice. You can then still do that virtually over video with physical live demonstrations, or you do it in face-to-face. I think it now allows people to make learning more accessible. So if there are if you've got one of the children off sick or something, you can't go in, you can still get some of that learning remotely from.
Yeah. And also you can re-listen to podcasts or, a pre-recorded lecture. So I think I'm taking maybe 20% of what's being said, not because I'm rubbish, but just because I'm a human, to be able to re-listen, slow it down, speed it up, fast forward, all of those options, to have that available is really helpful and enhances my learning experience, in my opinion.
All my audiobooks, I now listen on 1.3 times speed. So it just speeds it up slightly. If you've got an 8-hour audiobook, it then can save a good chunk of time. So you've obviously been able to see some patients here where you've actually started them at the start of the journey, and you can then see them. They won't be at the end of their journey, but they'll be a good significant way through. How's it been seeing the changes in people as when they come in from between appointment and appointment?
I think the diversity of the people it's seeing is quite interesting. You can have somebody that's very motivated into their exercises, fully on board straight away, whereas you've got the, more sedentary, never done exercise, scared to think of even a gym, all of those sort of things. Older patients, younger patients, all of the diversity that you can imagine. Yeah, to see their journey from where they are to where they can be, and for them for me to see their journey unfold, and for them to be coming up with their own solutions. I think and it's not dependent on that, like a type of person. It's a type, it's
we're all individuals.
Across the race. Yeah.
We're all different. And this is what I love about my job, is that you get to see the light bulb moments in people. You get to see them come in where they're a little deflated because they can't do what they want, and then you show them that they can do it and they are okay, and you see the change as they start getting excited because they start doing more and more, and then they start realizing, actually, I can get to a point where I can do this all myself, because our aim is to educate and teach our patients on how to then manage their problems. Because a lot of the time, if you've got something like arthritis, just doing some exercises for 12 weeks will help, but you still need to find out how you're going to maintain doing that.
Yeah, it's giving skills for that person to be able to take control of their own health and well-being. So I think it's really lovely to see that journey unfold. And it starts from their baseline. So where they're at, it's not a dose of exercise that's just handed out to everybody. It's very individualized, and looks very different depending on the patient that you're seeing. That's taught me loads about how to firstly motivate someone, find their baseline, and also think of the function of exercise and kind of burst those bubbles around what exercise looks like and the identity and the image that's created around.
Doing strength work, you don't always have to be in the gym. You can do plenty of stuff at home using bags for life and
pea shingle, sand.
Pea shingle.
Baked bean kit.
Dave is on a pea shingle sort of.
He loves his pea shingle.
I think it's great because you can buy a 20 bag kilo pea shingle for under £5 at the moment. So
£3.50.
£3.50. Oh, there we go. So actually, if you look at it from a cost per kilogram, it's a lot cheaper than buying weights.
And it fits into someone's day. It's not something they have to go and invest bags of time and effort. It's just there, accessible. You can sit at your desk and do some certain exercises if time's a particular limited function, thing.
And this is exactly why we will say that we could see 10 patients with an Achilles problem in clinic, but everyone's journey is different through it. And no one goes on the same journey because we've all got different barriers and preconceptions and goals and motivational things that motivate us. And it just goes back to what you said earlier on spending that time to getting to know that person, because then you can then build the right plan for that right individual. I think we're way past the old cookie cutter approach of handing someone a bit of paper and everyone gets the same thing, because we know that will work for a small percentage, but the majority of people, you just won't get the outcome that you need from it. And that's just not gonna do anyone any good. So after you finish placement here in 2 weeks, what's next?
Straight back into academia. So then I've got chronic condition unit and healthy discussions, which I feel I've kind of had a bit of an advancement being here. I feel like I've had an extra helping hand on that one. So straight back to university, and then starting dissertations, I guess, come after Easter. And then
by July next year,
I'll be free.
You'll be a fully qualified podiatrist.
But I feel like I'm just scratching the surface.
The way I describe it, it's like learning to drive. Once you've passed your test, your driving test, you have passed a baseline that's saying you are safe to drive. But actually, I think you really learn to drive once you've passed your test. And I think it's the same with most jobs, especially in healthcare and podiatry, is you've got your good baseline knowledge. Now your learning really starts on and then you can then start to learn about, actually, this area excites me more. than this area here. Obviously, we're biased. We prefer the musculoskeletal side of things here, but there are so many different avenues that you can go down. You've got the surgery, the pediatrics, the diabetes, the rheumatology,
pediatrics,
everything.
sports.
There's so many options of variety that I think a career as a podiatrist can give you. But the MSK way is the best way, but maybe a smidge.
Bit biased on that one, maybe.
A smidge, maybe a little bit biased.
Yeah, maybe.
On there. So I just want to say thank you for coming on, having a chat, and just sort of telling your story on how you get there. And it's been a real pleasure having you here at clinic. You ask really good, sensible questions, and I'm sure you will go far. And if you ever need to bend our ear about something, we're always here to answer any questions.
I'm not gone yet.
No, you still got another 2 weeks.
I've got another two
and
weeks.
we got Josie's on Friday.
Yay!
Yeah, there we go.
I even knew what Josie's was. I was like, yes, I need to be in that placement.
Well, I think it is. You have picked a really good time to come on placement. I think there are going to be 3 Josies in total during the time here on.
And a lot more learning. It's pediatrics and stuff we're doing.
Yeah,
a bit
we got
Friday.
We've got a colleague, James Welsh. We're basically doing a shared education day where he's going to come give us a half a day update on pediatrics, and we're going to give him a half a day update on managing musculoskeletal injuries. So we sort of said, look, just come to clinic, we'll get some lunch in, and let's just have a day of fun and learning. And that's what it's all about.
Shame it's not half term this week, because I could have brought all my children in.
Yeah, the guinea pigs.
I have a variety of ages.
Yeah. So once again, thank you, Hayley. So please do subscribe to the podcast. If you have any questions for myself, then please do get in contact, and we shall see you on the next episode. See you later. Bye.